to specially recognize our distinguished members of the university management, and of course, other distinguished members of the extended university management of Olabisi Onabanjo University. I start with the headman of Olabisi Onabanjo University, the Vice Chancellor, and the Chief Academic and Administrative Officer of Olabisi Onabanjo University. I introduce to you Professor Ayodeji Olayinka Johnson Abuola. Because like I mentioned earlier, I'm mentioning the Deputy Chancellor Academic is equally very much around on the right hand side of the Vice Chancellor. And distinguished postgraduate I mentioned earlier, he is Professor Olatunji Abosede Oderinde. Of course, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, with the Chairman Academic Ceremonies Committee of Olabisi Onabanjo University, is very much around and currently on the field and will join us next. He is Professor Dipo Olukumeri, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration of Olabisi Onabanjo University. Of course, the University Nigerian is very much and working on the next line of action in this case university, which is the upcoming academic ceremony that will be coming up. She is Professor Feitola Nike Olubade, who join us next. And of course, the Chancellor of the Exchequer of this great university, popularly known as the Butter, is equally very much engaged, but he will join us in due course. I know the Butter has been very much engaged and grown in making sure that that financial aspect of the upcoming convocation ceremony is done without any hitch. So thank you very much for obliging us despite your busy schedule. Thank you very much. Once again, is Mr. Olufemi Showuni SCA. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Of course, we have our distinguished members of the Committee of Provost and Deans, and we have the Dean, Faculty of Administration and Management Sciences in our midst, Professor Mute Sholake. Thank you very much. Also in our midst is the Dean, Faculty of Law, Professor Bade Akerimade. We appreciate you. And of course, the Dean, Faculty of Pharmacy, Professor Latif Bakari. We appreciate you. And not behind the Dean, Faculty of Science, popularly known as the Faculty of Colleges of Science in Olabisi Onabanjo University. Thank you very much, Professor, for today. Of course, I think people will have to beg me, portrait on my behalf. If somebody that wrote signed my appointment letter, and by the time I'll be needing gracious things from this university when I retire, somebody that will probably be signing it. Don't you know? What we should do with that? So that is on the lighter way. Mr. Legislature, the Secretary to Council, the Secretary to Council of Olabisi Onabanjo University, the Secretary to Senate of Olabisi Onabanjo University, and the Secretary to all committees in Olabisi Onabanjo University, the Chief Administrative Officer of Olabisi Onabanjo University, the distinguished scholar in academic in administration. I introduce to you ilé global Kenya Olùgbọ̀ta. I think that is a country. Thank you very much. Mr. Registrar, because those of us from that side, you know where I'm talking of. So when we do like this, you will not hear us. So thank you very much. Can we appreciate my registrar? Thank you very much. In our midst is the Dean Faculty of Arts, our very distinguished postgraduate, Professor Jide Data. We appreciate it. And of course, from the teachers' constituency, the Faculty of Education, we currently have the Dean and Professor Janet Adetayo. Thank you very much. Sorry, I will communicate that name from my constituency from College of Agriculture. Professor Adeneto, the Dean Faculty of Agricultural Management and Rural Development. Am I right? Thank you very much. That is registered now. I appreciate you. Of course, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, we have the distinguished members of the university community here, completely represented from the Senate, the professors, and other distinguished members of Senate, other distinguished member head of academic and non-academic units, and of course from the student constituencies, they are very much around here. Because of time, I want to point them. We have several directors, deputy registrars, several heads of departments in our midst here. But for political sake and time factor, we want to secret your agenda to put that aside. Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, once again, I welcome you to the meeting with the Vice Chancellor and another member of the University Management. Over to our Vice Chancellor.
The police officer of the university, provost, deans, heads of department, member of Senate, university committee, our dear guests, and the afternoons, ladies and gentlemen. We are doing 2-3 days in one day. So like what we did last time, we always do for topical issues that affect everybody, and we want all the university committee to also benefit from that new policies that government wants to introduce. The last time we actually discussed the issue of pension in details, and we invited eminent guests to actually discuss that because from there we proceed with our meeting. Today, we are also going to do it in that line. The Department of Accounting and the SADU with the responsibility of making sure that this rule of taxation is before the university actually introduced another course 2 years ago, and one of it for them to be able to enlighten us apart from giving adequate information to general public to be able to award the pay in that area. And along the line, government introduced new policy that is giving everybody concerned, and we don't even know which one is true, which one is false. But as university community, where we have experts, the heads, we should be able to bring people together to enlighten ourselves, and if there's need for us to also make a policy direction on it and send it as our own view to government, which I will do. But for now, there's a policy on that, which is the new act, and we want them to also enlighten us. Of course, you know, the people in the Department of Accounting like to do things in their own way. The now title is a fourth topic lecture. I don't know if they are just coming up after 43 years. So thereafter, my dear colleagues, we will then move straight to 3 things I want to discuss. After the taxation, once they have enlightened us, and we finish with them, then move to the next stage of discussing how that taxation affects us there. What are the peculiarities? We discuss that among ourselves. And then we move to the next stage, what are the updates on our pension, because they affect everybody. We want to know where we are going. Then we move to the next stage. Of course, I guess we will not be able to benefit from that, which is clear our own areas. How do you go about the area? Since we already hearing, the people in the Department of Accounting will share their own, and then part of it was also go to you. So that you can ask them how to do the work. And then we also need to discuss the new way by which we are going to be doing business in the university. University, from this January, we are going into paperless university, completely digital. And so our colleagues need to see what are the steps involved in doing this. So that everybody is aware, if you have questions, you have concerns, we can all do it together as a family. Then we take the decision from there. And then the last one will be what all of us have been waiting for, have been looking out for. What will be my future? How will I get there? That is the issue of condition of science. Council has already approved that. And the implementation starts from this academic session. Details that are involved, you also need to let you know. Please want the details clear. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give ourselves a round of applause. I've done beautifully well. And last but not least, in the issue of our convocation, we need to celebrate ourselves by showcasing what we have done in the last 1 year with the public. So we need to actually own it. It's ours. We have done well, and we need everybody to see that this is where we are going. This is where we are. And we must bring ourselves together and enjoy it. It's a celebration of the universe. And you own the universe only represent the people. Dear staff, what is next now is for all of us here to be part of where we belong. This is where we all belong. Is that us? We are all covenants. We will be down here, and then we allow the department, the HOD of accounting, to do the first part. To do the first part of this gathering, even the public measure, and then discover to also do that, and then we then move straight to it. You can ask questions, be free to ask questions from them, your concerns, your observations, even the rumors that is flying in the social media. Can share it, and share your thoughts. From there, you move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can we appreciate the Vice Chancellor of the State University? Of course, we are still in the session of the university management, meeting with the distinguished members of the university community. Of course, the Vice Chancellor is very pragmatic in this space by making sure that professionals are invited to come and tell us, validate or the veracity of the claim that has been all over the internet that you have to do this, tax is this, whether it is proportional tax, whether it is progressive tax, or whether it is protective tax. Today, you get to know that. Am I communicating? Okay, the professional will have attended that here today. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Vice Chancellor has directed that those of us whose friends and colleagues are yet to be here will be invited to join the meeting with the university management right away. Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are now in the public lecture proper now, organized by the Department of Accounting, the Faculty of Administration, and Management Sciences of Olabisi Onabanjo University. Now I want to invite the head man of that faculty to come and give the welcome address. Join me in welcoming Professor Musek Sholanke, the Dean, Faculty of Administration and Management Sciences, to please step forward and give the welcome address. Thank you very much. Professor Sholanke, please. Thank you very much. Vice Chancellor, other principal officers of the university,
provost and the other distinguished members of the university, our respected guest lecturer, family, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the press, great old wives. Is that the best you can do? Great old wives. And the greatest old wives. It is great joy and profound gratitude that I welcome you all to this historic occasion. It's the first public lecture organized by the Department of Accounting under the Faculty of Administration and Management Science. Today marks not only a milestone for our department, but also a significant step in fulfilling our collective mission of advancing knowledge, stimulating dialogue, and shaping policy discourse in Nigeria. The chosen theme, Nigerian Tax Reform Act 2025, focused on personal income taxation, will not be more timely or relevant. Taxation, as we all know, remains the lifeblood of every modern economy. And personal income tax, in particular, is central to ensuring equity, accountability, and sustainable development. The recent reforms enacted in 2025 in this great country have introduced new frameworks, compliance mechanisms, and opportunities of both government and citizens. As academics, practitioners, and policy makers, it is our duty to interrogate these reforms, highlight their implications, and propose pathways for effective implementation. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the lecture of today will provide all of us the platform to examine the objective of the Nigerian Tax Reform Act 2025. We will recollect when the Vice Chancellor was given that, in fact, we have had the law on the 2025 tax reforms, even contradictory information. Some earlier told us when we transfer money, make sure you give the adequate narration. Even the yourself that make sure you say it is gift, it is gift. Otherwise, you will be indebted at the end of the year. I was afraid, but I did not know whether that is right or wrong. Later on, we had another one that said, "Mother, whether you give narration or not, it doesn't matter." I have somebody else who said another thing. Where do we go from here? So the glory of God is the Department of Accounting has put something together that we have life on all these. Today, this lecture will also analyze the impact of personal income taxation on individuals, businesses, and government revenue. We are also going to look at the challenges and opportunities in fostering a fair and efficient tax system. Again, we are also going to bridge the gap between the theory and practice, ensuring that our scholarship contributes meaningfully to national development. I strongly believe that at the end of the lecture, we are all going to be better informed, and we know how to manage our money to avoid debts, which some people are threatening us with. I commend the Department of Accounting with a taxation program is doing. If we have a taxation as a program in the university, and anything of taxation comes to be threatening us, I think that is not good enough. I want to appreciate our Vice Chancellor for making taxation one of our academic programs in this university. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chancellor. I commend the Department of Accounting for the first time is selecting this type of a critical topic for its maiden public lecture. Maiden public lecture after the department came under Faculty of Administration and Management Science. This initiative reflects the department's commitment to excellence, relevance, and service to society. Because I believe we are all going to benefit and we are all going to be liberated from the bondage of misinformation on all of these factors. This lecture also underscores the faculty's vision of producing graduates and research outputs that address present national and global issues. To our distinguished guest lecturers and the panel, I am very close to some of them. I know the depth of knowledge. I want to sincerely appreciate. We are deeply grateful for your presence and for sharing your expertise with us today. We look forward to your insights, which we undoubtedly enrich our understanding and inspire constructive dialogue. To all the distinguished members of the university community, I want to crave your indulgence. As rightly pointed out by the Vice Chancellor, let us all listen attentively. Let us interrogate whatever the guest lecturer will pass across, so that we will leave this better informed on the knowledge of taxation. Finally, I extend my heartfelt appreciation to the organizing committee, faculty members, and all who have worked tirelessly to make this event a reality. I thank the Vice Chancellor for allowing us to address the whole university community on this subject matter. This is part of the contribution of the faculty to the university as a whole. Your dedication exemplifies the spirit of scholarship and something that defines our faculty. The Department of Accounting, where taxation program is domiciled, I say thank you. On behalf of the Faculty of Administration and Management Sciences, I warmly welcome you all once again. May today's lecture ignite fresh ideas, foster collaboration, and contribute to building a more just and prosperous Nigeria. And may we get sufficient and adequate knowledge to build us out of the fear of unknown as far as taxation is concerned. I want to sincerely thank you all for listening, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we appreciate the Dean Faculty of Administration and Management Sciences once again. Professor Tolanke, we appreciate you. The Vice Chancellor and distinguished members of the university community, may I now humbly invite to the podium the personality, the professional that will be giving us insight into the topic Nigerian Tax Reform Act 2025, a focus on personal income taxation. Personal income taxation. To do this, join me in welcoming to the podium to the high table here, the guest lecturer of today, the MD CEO, ICMA Professional Services, and of course, above all, a distinguished alumnus of Olabisi Onabanjo University, Alhaji Lukman Buhari. You are welcome to the high table. Let me equally invite to the high table the discussant for today's after the lecture. I have another distinguished alumnus of this great university, the man that has been making way in the social media in the last 2 months. The man with so many degrees, with so many PhDs, so many BMSc, so many BSc, so many professional degrees, so many professional certificates. I introduce to you the first instructor of today, Professor Godwin Oyedepo, another distinguished alumnus of Olabi Solomon University. Go to the internet and just go to Oyedepo. I'm very sure you will count the degree from 1 to 100 today. Thank you, Professor Oyedepo. Also in our midst is another distinguished professional. This time around is the second discussion we'll be having today. Olabi Solomon University. Mr. Taiwo Mudimu, SCA, SBDR. Can we put our hands together? Let us clap. Let's put our hands together. The time is going to the federal state government board, so it's going to the board. So can we appreciate it better? Thank you very much, Mr. Mudimu. Thank you. Another discussant is from this great university, this great standard of learning, from the Faculty of Law, Olabi Solomon University. I am Dr. Olufunmilola Olabode, another intellectual entrepreneur, will be joining the discussion today. Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, without wasting time, may I humbly invite to the podium the guest lecturer of today, Alhaji Lukman Buhari, to commence the lecture. Thank you very much.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Vice Chancellor and the Principal Officer of this university, let me stand on the already established protocols, because if I have to acknowledge all the principal officers, I think would have been due. Let me say this as a background. I will not only an alumnus of this university. I used to work here at school as a lecturer. I also was the lecturer of the Department of Accounting. I left this university as a lecturer too. Then I used to involve in it's actually a great privilege for me to be here. It's like a whole hobby. I have a sense of I just don't know how to express my feeling, but let me say that any of the discussants here could as well have been here in this lecture, but I have been chosen to be the one to as the guest lecturer for this very issue. My plan goes to the Department of Accounting for this session. Now, the topic today is the Nigerian Tax Reform Act 2025. The focus on personal income taxation, and I've added to it what do they mean to the individual. By the end of this presentation, I hope that I'll be able to explain to you the purpose of that reform. Explain to you the new tax laws as they affect you as individuals. clarify to you what income is taxable and what is not. And then, of course, I try to correct some misinformation that have been going all around on bank accounts, bank alerts, and the rest. Then try to also explain what rights do you have as a taxpayer. And of course, at the end of the day, once these explanations have been made, I believe that you would have had the confidence and the fear-free condition in moving ahead. Now, the tax levy. Everyone of us know here that anything about tax, you are actually talking about the law. My apologies to the lawyers, they are the learned laws. I always studied accounting. I say something property as the learned law. That does not mean us illiterate. Now, tax levy. Everything about tax is law. And therefore, the major constitutional principle or doctrine of legality in taxation is this: no tax or levy can be imposed, demanded, or collected except as authorized by the law. Somebody cannot just come to you and demand. There has to be a basis for it and a law in it. Now, the legal foundation for taxes in Nigeria rests on a tripod. The Constitution, the enabling statutes, and judicial interpretation. Now, the mother of all these statutes is a section, I will refer to a section in the 1999 Constitution, section 24F, which says, it shall be the duty of every citizen to declare his income honestly to appropriate and lawful agencies and pay his tax promptly. I'd like to maybe sometimes quote our professor sometimes, or rather, because I've had the privilege to also sometimes in some of his lectures too. There's no reason, you cannot ask for a reason why you should pay tax, because the Constitution does not provide you the reason why you should pay tax. Just say, pay your tax. So, now, the purpose of tax reform. Why do we need a reform if we do not have a broken system? We need a reform because it was stated that we already have a broken tax system. And I do agree that we do have a broken tax system because we are in a country we have so much number of taxes that we have to deal with that we can't even count. Whether at the federal or the state level, at the local government level. You can be going on the road and then you have a barricade somewhere and you don't know what you are even paying for. So we had a broken tax system, and I do agree that we are in need of a reform. And what were the purposes of these reforms? Majorly, to simplify the tax system. Our tax system is so complex previously. To improve the level of compliance, broaden the revenue base, and align with global best practices. Now, the objectives of this purpose is one, create a clearer, more efficient tax structure to boost economic growth, reduce multiple taxation, and also to modernize the revenue administration system. Now, let's look at the law. Then, you said it's law, then you had a broken system. And I want to do a kind of characterization of the law then and what I perceive to be now, given the tax reforms. If you look at the legal structure, the issue here, look at the legal structure. Under the old legacy systems, we had a fragmented tax status system. so fragmented. The focus of the latest tax law then was on revenue collection. The administration is largely manual and very discretionary. And then the rights are implied, not codified. The new position for going forward as provided by the new Tax Reform Act. You have the consolidated tax system as the legal structure. The focus is on revenue and taxpayer protection. The administration is digital because there's so much emphasis on digitalization and it's full-based, and then the rights are codified. Now, can you go back to the last slide? To let you know that the system is so fragmented, can you click on the repeat law section there that you have? Now, if you look at the repealed law, to tell you how fragmented our system, our tax laws have been, look at all the several laws that had to be repealed. Go to the scroll down. You can see these are all the laws that a company or an individual or anybody who wants to do business in Nigeria would have to have at least one knowledge of the other one. And this is just the federal laws. What about the laws from the states? That is why you will know that, yes, our tax systems is seriously fragmented. Can we just... The next slide. Now, the law, under the Nigerian Tax Reforms Act. Now, let me, before going forward here, let me also state that, in fact, I've had to revise this presentation twice. Largely because we had the law gazettes that was flying around. My presentations, my quotations, my references were based on that law. Only to be told, or only for someone in the National Assembly to say that this is not what we signed for. This is not what we signed for. So, and I also now have to make an effort to now get what we now refer to as the certified copy of the tax reform law that was now published by the National Assembly. So, I have now based most of my discussions here on that certified true copy released by the National Assembly. I hope the legal luminaries here will say I have done the right way. I don't know, but they are the learned ones. They will tell us in their discussion whether relying on that CTC is better than on the earlier gazette that we saw flying around. Thank you. Now, the Tax Reform Act, one, on that Tax Reform Act, is the Nigerian Tax Act. You see, this Nigerian Tax Act, you see all those sections of those repealed laws that I showed you earlier. One. Just the Nigerian Tax Act. So you imagine if you have to read 20 to 30 different statutes to be able to know what is the implication of taxes to you. Or, and now you just only have to reference just one act. The second is the Nigerian Tax Administration Act. This act, of course, focuses on streamlining tax administration. This particular act is the act that helps the states, various state internal revenue services, on how they are expected to run their tax administration, tax systems. It has to be in line with the Tax Administration Act. Then you have the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Act. Of course, we know that the Nigerian Revenue Service, formerly the Federal Inland Revenue Service, this particular act replaces that, and then it establishes a modernized revenue service with enhanced power, connection, enforcement, and use of technology. Then you have the Joint Revenue Board, which used to be a joint tax board. Now, it's of course, it creates a unified board to harmonize tax practices across federal and state levels to reduce conflicts and, of course, multiple taxation. Yeah. So, we now go to the main issues, you and I. Who is an individual in the face of the law? The term individual is actually a legal process. Individual in difference to the law, it does not refer to merely a human being. An individual could be an incorporated person or group, earning income. They all be treated or regarded as individual taxpayer. So, with that in mind, an individual taxpayer is now any person, resident or non-resident, who earns taxable income in Nigeria. This includes income from employment, business, profession, vocation, property, and any other sources. This is as provided in sections 2. We see various definitions by definition in sections 2, sections 4, 12, 13 of the NTD. Now, let's look at the various classes of the individual. The class 1 here, you have the natural causes. This will be taxable under PIT. A sole trader will be taxable under PIT. A partner in a partnership will be treated as an individual, and of course, will be taxable under personal income tax. And you have community or family where they have a joint income. They also will be taxed under personal income tax. Then you have trustees and executors. They are the representative of a trustee or an executor would be required to be taxed under personal income tax. Then incorporated body, perhaps those associations, clubs, and the rest. So, and the various sections for natural persons, section 2(1)(a), for partners, 2(1)(b), for community, 2(1)(c), for trustees, 2(1)(d), for the unincorporated body, 2(1)(b). So, you can go through these sections and get more information about them. Now, we go ahead. Now, what is the basis for taxing an individual? One of the major things is the issue of residence. The question is, as a taxpayer, what is your residence status? And we need to look at or perform a residence test. Now, according to the law, an individual is resident for tax purposes if he stays in Nigeria for 183 days or more. It's the golden rule, even though it's not totally exclusive in the sense that there are other conditions. You may spend less and still regarded as having residence in Nigeria. But the major rule is that you should be resident in Nigeria for 183 days or more. Or, see the word or, Nigeria is their habitual or economic base, notwithstanding temporary absences. So you may, I don't know about Prof, with all his degrees and all, he goes everywhere. Perhaps, in fact, I think he's an itinerant worker. A worker of no fixed address. Because today is here, tomorrow is there. So if somebody like him, for instance, does not spend 183 days in Nigeria because of speaking engagements and all the rest, he still does not say that he is not resident in Nigeria. Because one, his permanent home, his main abode, is a factor. The major source of income that he has is a factor, and then family or social ties. You want his family here in Nigeria, and he has a home. All those things go into factor, be a factor in determining whether or not he's a resident. Can you click on that resident? Let's just so that we have a deep dive into residence. You know, residence seriously matters because once you are regarded as a resident, the implications are that your worldwide income may be subject to tax. Your worldwide income, of course, subject to reliefs and duties from other countries. Then family obligations definitely arise. Paying and self-assessment rules comes into play. And then, of course, compliance and rights under the NTA becomes enforceable, which means even if you do not comply with the law, the tax authorities can restrain your property at the end of the day. Now, the deeper down into the meaning of that residence. Now, like I said earlier, the primary test is the 183 days rule. The key point here is that under the 183 days rule, it does not have to be consecutive. In other words, it does not have to be straight 183 days. You broken. And it applies to all. To you as employees, academics on sabbatical, consultants, visiting researchers. This would apply to you. Then for habitual residents, just like I said before, the tax authority will look at the substance over full. And the indicators would include your family residence, permanent accommodation, regular employment or engagement in Nigeria. This, of course, will prevent artificial avoidance by short exits. Then, of course, employment-based residence. An individual is due resident where, of course, they are employed in Nigeria and the employment is not merely incidental or temporary. This, of course, will cover academic staff, non-academic contract staff, and job lecturers and the rest. Of course, lastly, your place of principal economic activity. Now, with regard to temporary absence. Now, temporary absence from Nigeria does not break precedents where the absence is due to its particular university community. The study leave, sabbatical, medical treatment, official assignments. What residence does not depend on is that it does not depend on your nationality. It does not depend on your status, whether you are a student or whether you are employed. Can we go to the next slide? Now, we now come to the issue of income. We now want to ask the question, what is income? The definition of income is provided for by Section 4 of NTA. And it says, all profits, gains, earnings, benefits, whether in cash or in kind, that accrue to a person from any source, And look at the word unless expressly exempted by the act. Unless expressly exempted by the act. So this wide definition has implications. Now let's characterize income. Not every income or not everything that you get is regarded as income. For instance, loans is not income. Transfers to you, they are not income. Reimbursements are not income. Capital receipts, gifts, these are not income. Gifts, at least in most cases, they are not income. But if your company gives you a gift, that's the tax authority. I'm sure, Mr. You question it. If the university says it gives you a gift, and you are an employee of the university, no, you didn't just come. Something, this is like a benefit. That's how the tax authority will post look at it, because that is where you can go. Now, the criteria for you for graduation of what you regard as an income, that income must be earned, derived from Nigeria. It's accrued and it's linked to work or business. That is the strict definition of what an income is. If you want to do a deep dive, can you put that definition of income in that English? Because this is a very critical area that I need to have a deeper dive into, so that you know exactly the various earnings that you have, what portion of it constitutes income. Now, employment income. You have your basic salary. You have allowances, your housing, transport, duty, hazard or responsibility, bonus and honorarium, benefits in kind. I know most of us have always ignored benefits. Official accommodation provided at subsidized rates, university vehicles assigned for personal use, utilities or domestic staff provided by the institution are all benefits in kind. There are means by which they are calculated, and it's called taxes. Let's look at academic-related earnings. In the university setting, the Act that clearly brings the following within the scope of income: external examination fees, part-time lecturing income, consultancy income earned personally by lecturers, adjunct or visiting appointment fees, supervision or assessment honorarium. All this becomes taxable in your hands. Let's look at research grants and the fellowship awards. Now, the Act draws an important distinction relevant to universities. Research grants received by the university strictly for institutional research purposes are not income. But where the grants includes personal treatments, living allowances, top-up payments, such may constitute taxable income to that beneficiary. So similarly, prizes, awards, and honorarium received by staff, whether locally or internationally, may also be treated as income in your hands. Now, coming to the university as an institution. Of course, the university as an institution, because they are public nature, are statutorily exempt from income tax on the core educational activities. But if the university has a commercial consultancy service, they have to pay taxes on that. Revenue from university guest houses or conference centers, commercial printing press, farms, water factories, or bookshop, work on public basis becomes taxable. the worldwide income principle. Some who are tax residents in Nigeria, they have to adopt the worldwide income principle, which means your sabbatical earnings abroad, visiting lecturer fees overseas, online teaching income from foreign institutions may be taxable in Nigeria, of course, subject to double taxation ruling. In those other countries, taxes may have been deducted from that, and you are supposed to have reliefs on that. Now, administration of compliance. Most often, as an individual, the State Internal Revenue Board will be the one to ask for a complaint that you have to comply to. In other words, all this, you file your income, whatever, revenue service. So, in general, I've had to do a deep dive into this so that members of the investing community would know that they are taxed. And for you as students, being a student is not a cover. The moment you are engaged in economic activities, if you have one job here or there, those income was also taxed in your hands. Can we go to the next slide? Now, let's look at the income the law does not tax. Not everything is taxed, but let's look at the income the law does not tax. The first is exemptions for low income threshold. And the low income threshold, according to the law, is the first 800,000 that is taxed at 0%. Scholarships, accountable research funds. The word they are accountable research fund tells all they are not income. Gratuities, according to Section 13. Reimbursements, Section 4.2. Approved pensions, NHS contributions, life insurance premiums, housing and rent reliefs, they are not something that is taxed. There are certain exempt allowances, e.g., relocation expenses. What you should know is the common principle. And the principle for determining whether something is an income or not is the absence of personal economic gain. Now, for you to enjoy this various issues that does not involve taxes, it is clear that you have to have documentation and proper structuring. It is essential to preserve these exemptions to avoid not paying tax assessments. Money entered my account. I know that you also, because the Vice Chancellor and some other speakers alluded to this. Money entered my account. It's not a tax. There's nowhere in the tax act that says that your bank alerts or your banking flows will be taxed or is subject to tax. The law taxes income, and we defined income earlier, not bank flows. So that income, we say, must be traceable to employment, business of professional services, and investments, etc., as provided for under NTA. And I think we should also have a deeper dive to this issue of money entered my accounts, so that you will know that if, for instance, you have not research grants straight to your account, it is not taxable. So, like I said, the law actually taxes public gains or reward. Bank accounts and your tax page do not go together. A bank account is merely a payment channel. It's not a tax concept. It's just a payment channel. So the law will not ask you, did money enter your account? What the law will ask, what is the nature of that receipt? Was it earned? Was it reimbursed? Was it held in trust? Was it advanced? Did you benefit personally? Those are the questions the law will ask you. Now, common examples of not taxable inflows in the university. You have research funds. Of course, research funds will pay to the researchers. So, can you see that? The research funds, project funds paid to principal, investigative forward use, and not personal income, because they are accounted for and they are retired. Reimbursements, like we all know, reimbursements are not. Scholarships and student support. Scholarships to students are not invest and whatever support that is given to them are essential for educational purposes. It's not taxable. Money held in trust is not taxable. Personal transfers are not taxable. So when money inflows become taxable is when it is salary, wage allowance, the consultancy fee, external examination, business or professional income allowances and all the rest. These are what constitutes income and becomes taxable. So why do we have these misconceptions about money entering my account and then that? The reason is this. Bank has a reporting obligation to the IRS. If you open a new account, for instance, the law is that that bank should send to the tax authorities every new account opening. So now the anti-money laundering provisions are also there. A certain amount exists, a certain amount paid into your account exists, certain threshold. The anti-money laundering authorities will be notified. And of course, the tax service, the tax authority will request for a bank statement or bank accounts. Now, the legal principle is substance over form. The form is this: money entered my account. That is just the form. Then the substance is, was it income or not? Let's go to the next slide, please. So, I hope that with this you will know, you'll be able to at least dissect what is income and what is not. Registration. The mere fact that you are a taxable person, the mere fact that you earn income, brings to you, gives you an obligation that you must register for TIN. And what is TIN? Is your tax registration number, your tax ID. And what's easy, it is for life. Now, under the NTA, you have the various laws that govern tax administration, that govern tax registration. You have Section 4 as obligation to register. Issuance of tax ID, that means you must have a tax ID. Mandatory use of that tax ID. For instance, if you have an invoice, send it to a company or whatever, the law now mandates that you should state your tax ID on it. So, mandatory use of tax ID. Notification of changing particulars, should you maybe change locations? Suspension of deregistration, if for instance, you relocate to another country, then failure to register is as an offense. So these are the various laws that govern tax registration. Who must file returns? I said before, once an individual is a taxable person, the obligation to comply with the tax administration arises, provided for other sections 13 to 15 of the country. Now, those individuals who must file returns also include, does not matter whether your only income is salary and subject to pay, and that tax has been fully deducted. What this is saying is this: previously, people who are in employment, particularly those of us who did the academic and non-academic staff, because pay has been deducted, you do not bother to file returns. Now, the law says you must file a return. It's a personal duty, it's a personal responsibility. So, under the NTA framework, payee and withholding taxes are now regarded, withholding taxes have always been regarded as the payment of taxes and grants. Payee is now expressly regarded too as the tax you pay in advance. So, payee and withholding tax are advanced payments for personal income tax. Your accounts to the tax authorities will be credited. They are not final until a reconciled return. And finally, is the legal mechanism that converts deduction into final tax position. So you must file. After you file, tax authorities agree with your filing, it becomes your final tax position. The relevant sections that support this is section 51 of NTAU. How is tax calculated? Identify all taxable income from all sources. Your employment income, your honorarium, your speaking fees, your consultancy fees as an individual, everything is aggregated to come to as your gross income. You deduct statutory deductions like your NHF, your pension, and the like, including insurance claims. Then you apply before NTA 2025. We used to have what is called the consolidated relief allowance. Now that consolidated relief allowance is no more under the Act, 2025 Act. We don't have consolidated relief allowance. What substitutes it in a way is the rent relief. So, if you have the rent relief, of course, there are conditions for you to pay those reliefs. That rent relief becomes deductible from it. After you've done that, you arrive at your chargeable income. You apply the PIT rate, the personal income tax rate price. Of course, like we said earlier, the first 800,000 is taxed at 0%, then graduated to what you pay. So you deduct the payee. You remember I told you earlier that your payee and your withholding taxes are adjustments of tax. They are credits to you, which means that once you determine how much you are supposed to pay in taxes, you have to deduct the payee and withholding tax credit. When you set this up, you are able to get what your final tax is. Whether the final tax that is paid or it is nil. That's that. Withholding taxes. Now, we're looking at withholding taxes. We've already talked about it in effect. We said it's a tax that is an advanced payment of tax. What's the relationship between payee and withholding taxes? Payee applies to your regular income. Monthly deductions are made. It may represent the final tax for most employees, particularly the low-income earners. And then it is payroll due. While withholding taxes apply to non-regular or professional income or other business income, it's transaction-based. It's an advanced tax only. And then it is payment due. Whoever you have provided that service for, when it pays you, they deduct the tax. Therefore, as a member of the university, paying on your salary, withholding tax on the external academic engagements are reconciled with your annual PIT filings when required. So that's withholding tax and paying. Penalties and compliance. Now, you are a taxing person. You are a resident taxpayer. You are taxing and you earn income. The moment you have all this, there are implications for it. Penalty applies for non-compliance. If you do not comply with one, the registration, you do not comply with filing, penalties apply. So, regardless of your status, student or staff, once you qualify to be a taxpayer, once you earn income, penalties will apply to you. So, every taxable person has direct legal obligations. Compliance is personal. I want you to note that word. Compliance is personal. You can no longer rely on your employers that, okay, when the university has deducted my pay, it's no longer an excuse. Compliance by you is personal. Note that digital records, in linkage, because your team is linked to your NIN, perhaps there are debates around whether even the NIN will now serve as your team. We will know what the regulations the tax authority and the government will come up with. So, and for instance, if withholding taxes have been deducted by a company, XYZ, and you fail to file income, and that XYZ company files a return, the tax authority says, let's look at this taxpayer. So there is a digital, because of digital records that are kept, because of the various linkages, because of the data matching capability for the tax authorities, given the systems that involve, detectability increase. In other words, or in short, ignorance, silence, or reliance on payee alone is no longer a safe position. So what it means is that you have to be aware of your compliance obligations. And your compliance obligations means that you register for tax, you file annual returns, you make full and honest disclosure of income, you pay any additional tax due after credits, and importantly, maintain basic records to support your declarations. Failure in any of these areas, of course, can attract penalties. Now, I don't want to go into a deep dive into, I don't want to do that because of the time allotted. All the various sections of the law on penalties and compliance provisions are there. I'll leave them behind for those who are interested. Yes. Power of the tax authorities. Under the NTA, the tax authorities require returns and information. It is the practice of the tax authority that every year, at the beginning of every year, for instance, they make a publication requesting all tax payers to file their returns. They provide guidance as to how you are going to do it. So that fulfills that section of the law. So, but the issue is this: they don't have to. There is no obligation for them. It's not compulsory for them to make those certifications. They do it just to aid the taxpayer. So whether or not the tax authority makes that obligation, you are supposed to file your return. Access premises and records. For instance, if you run, say, a small business, the tax authorities have the right of access to your business premises and to your records. Of course, they follow proper procedures and requesting for those. They can request for third-party information. I just told you. Information from banks, information from companies and the rest that provide services for will also serve as information sources. So they can ask for a third party to provide information. They can restrain. We'll go into this issue of restraint because it's a very important aspect. Enforce compliance safeguards, conduct investigations, recover tax debt, and prosecute offences. These are the various parts of the board, and I'm sure that you can refer to these sections for the fuller understanding of it. Restraint, the last resort. Restraint is always the last resort. I am sure that the tax authorities do not take joy in trying to restrain the assets of anybody. Now, restraint is a statutory enforcement power that allows the authority, the tax authority, to seize, take possession of, and sell the property of the defaulting taxpayer for the purpose of recovering unpaid tax, penalties, and interest. Now, under TA 2025, like I said earlier, the strength is not the primary compliance, it's the last. But before the strength, the tax authority must ensure that one, the tax must be final. In other words, to go through all the process of assessment, of objections, of trying to come to an agreement as to what is the tax to be paid. Notices must be served. The objection process is exhausted. Court approval is obtained. We'll come to this issue of court approval because of certain issues. We'll come to it later. Or perhaps, let's take a deep dive into that the relevant commission committee. Yes. Because restraining the property of an individual is a very serious issue. And it is important that the due process is followed. Let's look at circumstances that can lead to restraint against an individual. Restraint may be triggered when an individual fails to pay tax assessed after filing the return, ignores the best of government additional assessment, fails to respond to a demand notice, persistently reports deadline reminders. So, a lecturer, for instance, before declared consultancy who ignores assessment, the consultant who receives notice to be refuses to engage, an income earning student who persistently reports after assessment, all these are candidates for restraint. All these are candidates for restraint. So you should know the circumstances that lead to restraint. We discussed that this at length. Bank accounts are not rumors. Bank alerts are not taxed. The facts and the rumors. We want to look at the facts. The fact is this: the tax authority may obtain bank information, but not arbitrarily. We discussed that. The tax law provides that for the tax authority to do that, they will obtain necessary information to determine tax liability. However, in requesting for this, your bank accounts must be purpose-driven. It's not automatic. Banks do not, the tax authorities do not have a seat in the banking hall. Information that is sought must be relevant to tax administration. No freezing of your accounts. No freezing of your accounts without a court order. So requests are subject to procedural safeguards. The process is mandatory. Of course, the State Internal Revenue Service for individuals is responsible for this, for individuals. Now, first thing this is the work, protection service in the Nigerian Tax Act. The major reason being that we initially had a gazette that tells you the Folk Act Gazette. But suddenly, a member of the National Assembly came up to tell the whole world that the context of that published gazette is not what was signed. Consequently, the National Assembly published what it terms a certified true copy of the law signed by the president. So we have that certified true copy. I have taken time to look at some of the contentious issues because they are important to you. If you are unaware and perhaps you are confronted by my colleague who is a tax officer, and it comes to you the gazette, not what released by the National Assembly, then you are in some hot water for the following reasons. One, look at the space. For someone to destroy your property without a court order, you know what that means? That somebody can just wake up and say, okay, I don't like the piece of that, only because you said I was stupid or anything, and then just say, we're going to destroy this without any court order. Now, the Gazette expressly authorizes the strength without obtaining a court order. You know the implications of that. Whereas the CTC released by the National Assembly, that Gazette omits the phrase and refers only to the states as subject to procedures. The legal effect. For the lawyers, permit me, I'm not a lawyer, but it's just my own clear interpretation. The legal effect. That Gazette wording expands executive power. The CTC wording preserves procedural safeguards. Issue 2. Sale of distressed property. After seizing that asset, after taking possession of it, the Gazette also said that the sale as the authority may determine. Do you know the implications of that? That means you can't question how and even how much they sell it as they determine. That's what that means. But the CTC said, in accordance with regulations, which means that you have the law back in the has to be the regulation, and the law in this case has its say. So the Gazette grants unfettered discretion to the tax authority. The CTC imposes the regulatory constraints. Issue 3. Deposit before appeal or stay. What this implies is this. Once the tax authority says this is how much you are supposed to pay, and you still it's contentious, you are paying it, you are contending it. They say before you don't say you want to contend, first go and pay, say 20, 30, 40% before you even come. You know that cost things. So what it means is that, of course, I can conclude what I think I should collect from you. If I conclude it, if I collect 20%, I can as well delete the other processes. As an ordinary one, that is the way I would pay. And but it has that implications. So, under the CTC, no permanent condition is specified. So you can imagine that the CTC, no permanent condition, that means you don't have to pay to have access to the law. But the first, you have to pay to have access to the law. So if you are broke at that time, then God help you. So the Gazette conditions access to justice on liquidity. The CTC preserves the right of appeal without repayment. Issue 4. Definition of small business, small company. The Gazette defines, the definition is expanded, is modified, or reduced to administrative discretion. If you leave anything to administrative discretion, generally we know, I'm not saying the tax authorities are corrupt, but sometimes they are corrupt. We all know, sometimes. Anyway, there is no facets of the Nigerian society that can claim to be holy. There is no harm. So the tax authorities is just the mechanism of the entire system. So when you give discretion, when the law gives discretion, most often you are promoting corruption. You're promoting nepotism and all forms of oppression. That is what it promotes. Now, the CTC anchors it to an objective threshold. An objective threshold. And that threshold is your turnover. If the company does not make this much, you are a small company. No questions asked. or your asset base is so much, no questions asked. So that's the threshold. Anything across that threshold is a different matter. Are you getting me? That is the problem of discussion. Can we go further? Then issue 5, transitional or commencement effect. Under the CTC approach, commencement provisions are clear and restrained, suggesting orderly migration from old to new regimes. The Gazette, however, also leaves gaps to be filled administratively, which is not also very good. Issue 6, controversy over offense creating wording. This is very so important. Under CTC, there's a precise use of language. The language often ties the offenses to willful or knowing conduct. Willful or knowing conduct. But for the Gazette, what it means, that Gazette, what it means is that you can't even read the sanity. Once you are thinking, you are thinking, no, you can't read the sanity. You can't read the, according to the legislation, we call it knowledge. My hands is not a company, my hand is not a company. That's what we say it is. I'm just quoting the legal words. Now, the Gazette, like I say, the law no longer clearly requires proof that the person intended, knew, or deliberately choose to do something wrong before punishment is applied. That is what that Gazette does. Other contentious issues, they look insignificant. If you know them very well, but they are also important. Cross-referencing errors. There are some sections in that Gazette that does not exist in the CTC. So what does that mean? It means that there are some late editorial changes. If certain sections exist in the Gazette and is not in the certified copy, it means there was some tampering. B. Aggregation versus single entity turnover. The CTC language tends to assess turnover per legal entity. But the Gazette hints at aggregation across related parties. Let me give you an instance. If you run, say, 2 or 3 hotel businesses, but they have different legal, they are differently registered. Perhaps you have 1 or 2 different persons, the fact that your name is traced to any of those things means that for that small business, the small business definition to public purpose, they want to aggregate all those businesses together to confirm whether you are a small business or not. But this language does not exist in the CTC. The period of measurement. CTC uses period accounting, the precision accounting year, while the Gazette. Sorry, I have 2 more minutes. Now, your rights as a taxpayer. I'll put you around up the rest. Your rights as a taxpayer is taken care of here. As a taxpayer, you have rights. And it's important that you know your rights. If you don't know your rights, then you are leaving yourself to do that. So your rights to be informed is provided under section 40.1.94 of the Act, NTAA. Rights to object and appeal, rights to due process before enforcement, rights to protection from arbitrary action. This is through this section. You should be thoroughly aware of your rights as a taxpayer. Practical advice to my friends and colleagues here. Keep simple records. Separate personal and business ones. File returns on time. Ask questions early. Please do not rely on us. Finally, my practical take-home messages for individuals is this. One, not all money is taxable. Income must meet legal tests. Registration and filing will protect you. There's nothing you can do about it. So the best thing for you to get protection for yourself is to register and file your returns. Mistakes are not crimes under the new law. Tax authorities have powers, but those powers are limited by law. Knowing your rights is now as important as knowing your obligations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can we appreciate the guest lecturer of today? Of course, we have seen it all. He has been able to tell us whether we like it or not. Now, tax reform is a reality. Like I mentioned earlier, Yoruba, permit me to say this in Yoruba, that Ojogate, obviously, maybe Gate. Whether we like it or not now, tax is now personal in this country. Whether you are a payee person or not, you have to render whatever you have. So we didn't know where we'll start from now. I think everybody has gotten the message. Can we appreciate the guest lecturer today? Thank you very much. And now in the next 30 minutes, we'll be rounding up the whole thing. On this note, I want to invite the head permanent of accounting to quickly step forward and moderate the next 10 minutes while the discussants will be given their positions. Thank you very much. Dr. Kelly, show your minutes. Quickly, the next 20 minutes, you will moderate and let us know whether tax is personal, the legal implication are given by the guest lecturer of today. Thank you, Dr. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, you will appreciate with me the importance of tax. Tax affects you and I, and it is contemporary. The guest lecturer has actually given a bird's eye view of a lot of things. I have my teacher, he sent a message to me and told me, how does this tax affect me? You may be saying that it does not affect you, but most of us, you advertise bags, you advertise a lot of things that you are selling. It's an income, and it's going to be exposed to tax. Well, here we are at the panel segment. To my right, you have tax experts. And let me say this. Tax is seated on three triple stand. Can you see that? Three things. The first one is the tax policy. And after the tax policy, what gives seats to the tax policy is the tax laws. And of course, who are to manage and operate the tax laws are the tax administrators. As we have here this morning, we have a set of discussants comprising the three of them. In other words, I have a tax practitioner, I have an academician who is very versed in tax, and of course, I also have a lawyer among us. So you can see that the discussant is balanced. And of course, plus the guest lecturer who has given a bird's eye view. we can fly. To my extreme right is the coordinating director of Ogun State's Internal Revenue Service. And of course, if you don't know, those are the people that deduct our tax. Oh, that is just it. It's simple. Where we pay our, they are people involved. And he is the number 2 man. He is the coordinating director of GIRS, Mr. Taiwo Ogundiyimu, FCA, FCI. Of course, at the extreme right of the 3-sister, I have a gentleman in theory and is also very versatile in practice. So here, we're not talking about only theory, we're going to talk about practical too. My vice chancellor, I watched him closely. He was so interested when they got to the area of the streets and a lot of things. He was looking. And I can see too, something with the 2 DVCs. There are thresholds. Here he meets Professor Godwin Oyedokun. Let me come back and also tell you a bit about the man immediate to my right. That is KJB for short. Is Dr. Enoch Oluwashola Ganiyu, also a tax practitioner. Without wasting time, like the VC said, we cannot finish it. Each one of you is going to have an opening statement on the team. And it's going to be not more than 2 minutes. Just an opening statement. Before we now go to questions and answers, before I throw you open, a lot of questions. My vice chancellor said, mo fẹ́ bèrè lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀ bó ṣe máa ń ṣe tax wà lábẹ́òkúta. He told me when I brought it in to him. So be ready. All right, Mr. Agundi, over to you, sir.
What I want to say now, because Alhaji have done good work by educating the university community, general public. What I have had to do to just let us know that compliance is the key. Compliance is the key. Without compliance, there is nothing to achieve in modern. And in achieving the modern Nigeria now, the president has opened the way for through this Taxation Act. Now it is now based on to decide which area do you want. Do we still want to be operating the way we have been operating before and remain stagnant, or we want to move forward? That is the particular decision. And also, in terms of this compliance, it is between it is all of us assignment that is we must be responsible. If we are not responsible, there is no way we will pay our taxes. And now that the ball is open to everyone now to file return, not only the employer, and the individual is going to file individual returns, which is disclosure of your income is paramount now. And if you don't disclose very well, and then the tax authority will have the power, as said by the lecturer. We have the power. And that power, the last resort, we don't use it because we don't want to use that, because that power is critical.
and a lot of penalty for non-compliance there, which as time goes on, I will now say something. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry, let me quickly correct a serious error because the gender are protected. Sorry, one of us, I just hope that I will not be taken to court. I just, so let me quickly do that apology. We also have a lawyer among us. Two things why we brought her to the gender balance, and of course, to also bring the tax, the law aspect of it as it stands. We also have here, from the Faculty of Law of our own university, Dr. Olufunmilola Olabode. All right, Prof, can I have your opening remark, a brief one?
Okay, so I quickly want to say thank you for inviting me. That's one. I also want to say you run the list of inviting somebody that will tell you what you don't want to hear. And one of those things that you don't want to hear is the fact that this issue of tradition is not new. And for those of us that are going to the social media saying Tinubu is equal to that, we are wrong. And I think we better just be focused and leave heresies and discussion so that we can be on this journey on time. Again, is taxation new in Nigeria? The answer is no. Because as old and as young as I am, I listen to my parents and their parents saying there are some people called Olowori, and when they dress and they enter those villages people run, it means no matter my age, they have always been past. And like Dr. Titi Morocco, which is representing the president of CIT, we always tell us that one of those things that are certain in life is test and pass. So if that is anything to go by, I also want to charge you to read your constitution very well. Like legal personal people will say that chapter 2 of the Nigerian constitution is injusticeable. That is, you can't take government to court for all those lawful things they say they want to do for you. Again, if you go back to what the my dad, my professional dad here, gave us with respect to the power of these people that they call gentle people that are not gentle have, when it comes to issue of transition, you will realize that the exact section 24 subsection, I want you to think best, believing that in church, subsection F says that you must disclose and pay your card to local authority. And he was quick to tell you, or if he has not told you, I am telling you that you cannot go and say, should I pay my tax before you do something for us? Because you will not find that in the constitution. Is that why I'm here today? The answer is no. Am I part of the government? I've never collected salary from government since I was giving back to. They did not appoint me. They may not be able to disappoint me. But the truth of the matter is that if you must continue to be a citizen of this country, whether you like it or yes, you will obey law, because you cannot approbate and reprobate at the same time. Notwithstanding their shenanigans over there that they are not doing well, but you must be seen to be doing well. Now, when it comes to this issue of personal income tax, except the students that are not up to the age of adulthood, and except they are not also doing profitable venture, you will pay tax. And whether you should pay or not, should not come. Now, let me tell you what I've done over time in my life, because I cannot explain my wealth with the salary of professor that I'm collecting. For the past almost 6 years, I've been a professor. I cannot explain. What do? After the institution must have deducted my pay as should do, because I travel a lot, and I cannot say whatever is salary times 12, it may not be up to my Canada or US flight ticket. I also must document to the best of my brain, if not my ability, that I've gained this over time, because I must speak within a month. And during that period, maybe 50,000 here, 100,000 here, because I don't want to run risk of being blackmailed or being charged that I'm not a good citizen. I document and I do what I call self-assessment. So if I invite chancellor, deputy vice chancellor, And if you are on that senior academic cadre, you are not doing yourself right by looking for loopholes in law in order to run away from taxes. Because one day it will be used against you, and as at that time, you will be put through, and you will not be able to say, the government is not doing well for me. This is supposed to be my opening statement, and I have more to discuss each time permit. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. I want you to note one thing. The first speaker, compliance. The second speaker, compliance. But he gave another leg, know your rights. Can we have your opening statements?
Thank you very much, sir. It's actually very read my mind because as the legal voice here, the two main things I want to talk about is know your rights. Know what, as a citizen of Nigeria, know what your tax entitles you to, know what you're supposed to do, know your obligation. The speaker has already given us, has already listed all the obligations, and then I need you all to take personal charge of your finances. You have said that too. Make sure that you're in charge. Don't just leave it to the employer to say, okay, she's more mature from some. Also, take note of all this because the speaker has already told us that we're all going to be personally involved in this. And then let's not have the attitude, like you said, that all the tax that we've been paying is not since the dividend and everything. Now they said, okay, this new reform act is to let me use the Nigerian English, better our lives. The low income earners, it's for somebody that earns let's say 800,000 naira, will not be paying anything. For the small business owners, maybe little or no amount of tax. So let's do our duty before we can say, okay, yes, okay, government, we have fulfilled our duties, we have paid the tax. Now we can hold you accountable. Now we can say, okay, state government, what are you doing to this road? Federal government, what are you doing to this particular issue? So please know your right and please do your duty and also take personal charge of your finances.
Thank you very much. A quick one there. It's also compliance. But in accounting, for every debit entry, there's a corresponding what? So he said tax is compulsory, but also that which he has said is nothing but what we call tax accountability. What are you doing with our money? Dr. Gani, over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you. I will start on the existing protocol, correct, and also I'll stand up to greet my elders. Thank you for inviting me. Okay, just to be a bit comfortable, right? You see, about this tax, one thing I will also use, there's this Latin word that says that "Nema dot call not a bet." You can't give what you don't have. And the information you don't have cannot work for you. So I give kudos for the people that organize this event. So one thing you should quickly know is that for payee as an income earner, if you are earning around 70,000, it's good for you because you are not paying any taxes, right? If you are earning even 100,000 in a month, after all deduction, you will not pay any taxes with this new tax law. Also, if you are earning around 120 to 1.8 in a month, your taxes will reduce. It's not that the institute, it's not that the school has increased your salary, but the new tax law has favored you. That is why your taxes actually reduce. So if your salary is within the threshold of 120,000 to 180,000 or 1.8 million in a month, your taxes will reduce. Correct? And also, there are loopholes, there are gimmicks you can also take advantage of. Yes, the tax law says that, if within the threshold, the lower of 500,000 or 20% of your annual rate, it's a relief for you. There's also a window there that says that if you take a loan from the bank, correct, to build a house, and the loan, let's assume that you took 30 million from the bank, and you are paying interest on that loan per annum for around 1 million, the interest aside principal. The law says that that interest element is a tax allowance for you. So if your annual salary assume is 5 million, that's 1 million, you will remove it from it before you calculate your taxes that follow the tax bucket, right? Another thing is that if you are actually paying an endowment loan for like a life assurance for your children, maybe an influence, a life assurance, the law says that those money you are paying, it's a relief for you. So, by and large, this tax law will actually favor you the more. And you that you are running side hustle, maybe you are doing, we told you when you are doing agri businesses, you are into manufacturing businesses, right? And you are into a small business. The law says that withholding taxes is not for you. You are tax exempt for withholding taxes. And in terms of VAT too, if you are running school like this, there is no VAT for you. You sell food in terms of bakery or anything related to staple food, you don't have to bother about VAT, right? And if you are into health organization, maybe pharmaceutical, medical appliances or anything, the law said, the new tax law said that don't bother yourself about VAT. And there are some that are exempt, right? If you're into accommodation or transportation is exempt. So if by and large, this new tax law actually favor you the more. So people that are earning above 2 million in a month, or 25 million, they will feel the heat. But at this level, it is not going to hit you so hard. You will even enjoy the more benefit. There is something they call purchasing power. Your purchasing power will increase because you have more money to earn. I'll have to follow on that. Thank you very much. That is a tax practitioner's perspective. He has told you one or two ways by which you can be fast about taxes. Without wasting too much time, I'll have to open it now. We have just a small time to spend here. I'll have to open it. It's now time for comments, questions, discussions. But I will first of all give my Vice Chancellor, because I remember he told me, Kenny, no more bearing the tax. Don't worry. So, Vice Chancellor, sir, your question, sir.
Let me start by appreciating all the speakers. So, anybody that wants to ask questions, do not appreciate them anymore because of time. I'm very going to appreciate them. Okay? The question is now becoming difficult because now that everything about compliance, know your rights, my right is a little bit difficult now because I don't know where my rights start and where I don't know where it stops. Because if I take it from where Alaji stopped, where even the CTC and the Gazette are not the same, and with the little experience I have with this administration, Gazette is the law, which is more or less the white paper, because it's the one that signed by the executive that makes it a law. Whatever the House must have done, it's just a bill. It becomes a law when the president has sent the signature on it, which is the Gazette one. And that makes it difficult a little bit. But be that is made, law is law, according to the lawyer. You cannot question the law now if it is reviewed. You must comply. So, my dear colleagues, please comply. Now, the man in Abeokuta is here. That one is very important to us. Now, our taxes, because I like him say something the other time. Now, people were asking me, and that was why I was discussing with my BBC. In December, we gave people money for rice. And then he said, if it's linked with the organization, are they going to be paying tax for that rice? One bag of rice? So, if you clear that one for me, that's the government is here. But how do you determine our tax? Sometimes, the time that we pay this month, whereas I go, my salary will go in, the law increase every month. My tax continue to vary. It might not be the one I pay this one, I pay next one, I pay. No, you don't understand that even the union was questioning me. What happened to their salary? But we then found out that we need to not look at it, not that we say we have a right, and then we don't look at it together, have a stable tax regime. But how do we do this tax? That is very important. All these exemptions. Because if you look at our payslip, we only have two aspects there. But they are all the things are consolidated. So how do we now know the one that is accepted? They're not going to be taxable because we don't see it. Everything has been consolidated. And at the end of the day, they don't give us the figure and people start complaining. And at the end of the institution, I ask myself, how do we arrive at this? Because I must be able to explain to them, and I'm saying them. I said it here, and they are people. Now, if I don't understand how the money is deducted, I'm done for them when they ask me a question. Because those exemption aspects that Alhaji told us are not stated in our places anymore. It has been consolidated by federal wages and salary commission. So I will be glad to have that, so that our people will know that it's not the university that we just decided to be short-paying them all the time. Thank you very much. I hope, HOD,
Sir,
you are free now. So I can take over the vice chancellor from you. I did vice chancellor for 1 hour. I think that has been settled down.
thank you very much.
And you must answer the question now.
Yeah, that's exactly what. Let me just respond to that. Thank you, sir. The coordinating director. Thank you so much.
Your system, we normally calculate and determine your salary, your tax deducted on a monthly basis, which we tend to publish. What we normally do, whatever you committed to us, what are committed to, is what we put. You don't hide any information, you don't remove any information. Only the information submitted and to determine the tax paying. And we have all, you apply all the relevant law in the partner income tax before we apply it.
All right, it's okay. Don't worry. It's okay.
So I'm also a student. I only want what I'm trying to say is that our salary is consolidated. Everything is together. I don't do it every month. Even when it is stable, it's the same amount that we are paying. What I'm saying is that if I be done more, it can be done less. But what we are saying that we want to know how to arrive at that figure. But according to what Alhaji told us here, it will be easier for us. Nobody will have question. If the Federal Wages and Salary Commission has not consolidated every aspect of the salary. But Alhaji told us here now, there are some areas that are exempted from tax. But we don't have that. Maybe what we'll be helping us to do, that will help us. And everybody will know. Okay, this area that we exempted, this is how much it is. Not that they don't, I think what they brought to us here, the senior academics, you need to be paying more. And you mentioned my chancellor. I don't want anybody to come and ask me when I'm spending my money. To come and ask me to pay more. You want to know those areas, 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe between 2 and Mosa. My mother was listening to her ear because I'm not an accountant, I don't know much. Don't say that is accepted. Maybe we don't need to be taking it to you. But we say God was our fault that you pass. Then we don't need to be taking that one to you, and then we have to rest.
I'm not talking about it.
Let me just stand up to kind of respond to what you are. Now, ordinarily, the university is supposed to be independent. The duty to compute, to prepare your salaries and all the rests with the university, in particular with the bursary department. It is the bursary department that understands and knows what portion of the consolidated salary that you get is housing, is transport, is this or that. What portion of it qualifies for which pension is deducted, from which NHS or whatever deductions that are thereabout. Bursary department should do their own independent calculation. This is what the bursary department prepares that is sent to the IRS. It is the duty of the bursary department to let each staff, academic or non-academic, to know the components of what he is paid, what is deducted in terms of taxes, in terms of pension, in terms of NHS, whatever. That duty solely lies in the bursary department of the university. The IRS simply checks at the end of the day, compares and sees that you are complying with the law as it were. That is as far as they do. They do not compute the taxes for you. They only check to ensure that, okay, what you are computing is right or is wrong. They then get that information to you. That is that. I want to respond because you will maybe have it say to your first remark on the issue of the CTC, whether and the Gazette. This is the Gazette. When the National Assembly released that CTC, it was signed. It's also gazetted and it's signed by the president. So, and once it is signed by the president and the National Assembly says this is what we deliberated upon, this is what we approved, in my view, I don't know the letter was please tell us more. But in my opinion, that of the National Assembly, which they have come publicly to tell the whole world that gazette is not what it's talked about, then that makes the ones they have released that have been signed by the president makes it the law. Thank you very much.
On that note, the time is past 6. We have to. Sorry, just start.
So I just want to say this, but this is in terms of when you are giving people money for rights, I think with the relevant section of the extra tax law, once you give them as money, it will be assumed as an allowance in their hand, an income, and it will be taxed in their hand. So that for monetizing it, why not buy the bag of rice for them? So it makes it non-taxable, right? So even somebody giving you as a gift in your hand is not taxable. What they are just saying is that, if it becomes so voluminous, then now trace it to who is giving you, is the person paying tax. So in the real sense of it, this of giving you gift is not an harm to you. It's also a plus to you, in as much that the person, the giver, actually pay the tax application. So there is no cost for alarm. As for the tax, what the boss are calculating, their own as an IRS is an external thing. They do an independent thing. What you've done is right. They don't have any issue to come back to you. Thank you.
All right. I will take that as a closing thought from the panelists, and I'll have to close the panel. We must also appreciate the Vice Chancellor. He gave us 1 hour, and honestly, we have actually spent exactly 1 hour by our time, and we don't want to go beyond that. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you for coming, and also appreciate you from the department. The Vice Chancellor is going to do that. I want to formally close the panel discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and we appreciate the Department of Accounting in Labusarajo University. Dr. Kenny Suyemi, thank you very much. You can see how eloquent and the origin skill in our head Department of Accounting. Can we appreciate him once again? Of course, the only thing that is, because most of us live on gifts, because so if everybody is giving us gifts now, you have to query that. People that are giving us gifts, support the so that's where we get our. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Of course, the next thing now is presentation of plaque and awards to our distinguished guests today, starting with the guest lecturer. To do that is the Vice Chancellor of this great university, Professor Ayodeji Olayinka Johnson Agboola. Of course, he's going to do the presentation of plaque and awards to the guest lecturer of today, in person of our distinguished scholar, and of course, at the same time, distinguished professional, FCA, FCA, TI, everything together. You will see what is happening today about tax reform in Nigeria. It started from the scratch, started from everything, and you can see what is happening. Thank you very much, as I hand over the mic to the Vice Chancellor of this great university.
My dear students, I hope you have learned from all this. So as you take your exit, you can continue your lecture now, please. Okay? Look at this. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a similar honor on behalf of the Department of Accounting, Faculty of Administration and Management Sciences of Great University to present a word of appreciation to Alhaji Lukman Buhari, LCA, LCT High, the one that is more important and alumnus of this great university. Congratulations. Alhaji, that is I've appreciated you on behalf of everybody. So we then discuss better how to have taxation building on this campus. So Alhaji will discuss that. But on behalf of the university, I also want to appreciate the Institute of Taxation. They gave us $250,000 for this program. Please, I have an applause for them. But we already have ICANN building, banking hall, so we need taxation hall or taxation building. So we need to start discussing that. So before Alhaji leaves, and the director, you will excuse me, we will go and discuss that. We come and give you a reply. Approve? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Secondly, before the Vice Chancellor leaves the stage, let me equally invite another distinguished discussant of today, Professor Godwin Oyedokun. Is he Adekoyejo or Olukoyejo? Which one do you put now? A distinguished alumnus of this great university. So many PhDs, so many masters, so many first degrees, so many professional certificates. Thank you very much. Professor Godwin Oyedokun. Thank you very much. You are welcome, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, I also have a similar honor in presenting this award of appreciation to Professor Godwin Oyedokun on behalf of the Department and Faculty of Farms, a distinguished alumnus of this university. Congratulations. No, that might let's be up there. Because they are not finished.
You don't think I'm the one giving you a award?
Because that might signifies something. Have you? Because you have another impact wall down there too. It's also from farms. So I want to see his name. Since Alhaji's name as well. So there are so many of them that will see their name. But I know director, I will see director's name for now. You know the reason. So you are director.
Thank you very much. Before the national teller leave the stage,
Sorry, there's one person that's more important. Let's only come. I know that name, so that I can check the person I want the person. I always check those people. But this one, I want the man. Anyway. Dr. Titi for all. Let's get an applause now. I can help you. I will tell you why now. The answer is indicator. But when they force somebody out, you know the answer is indication. The task indicator of what we are doing is that we have seen the world to go and facilitate that art building. Have you? So I can give back mic for acceptance speech.
Vice Chancellor said, the distinguished speakers, my fellow OSWITEs and OUITEs, in as much as your midst, I've seen it as a challenge to have that tax building up, and we would try as much as possible. We put heads together and we'll see what can be done. Thank you.
Àtìgbà aláyé ti dáyé, kò sọ́mọ òòlù tó torí burúkú.
thank you very much. Let me equally invite Dr. Oluwasola Ganiu, SCSCTI, the Managing Director of KGB Professional Services, Lagos, to step forward and receive an award from the Vice Chancellor of this great university.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have signal honor to present this award to Mr. Oguti. Sorry, Dr. Oluwasola Ganiu. Thank you very much. The one they gave to me, enter my head, so that's going to be cast the function for this one. That will be great. They don't need something to me again. It's an alumnus of this university. So I'm 100% sure that that building will come up. You know, the name is very, very familiar. That was why I was calling the name all the time. But now it's my friend today. All the misconceptions, the rumors have been disappeared. He's not the one deducting my money, it's boss. On behalf of the department and the faculty, I present this award of appreciation to Mr. Taiwo Ogudi. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Olukumilola Olabode from Faculty of Law at Addisonoma University.
Okay, so maybe I will ask you to give this award or thing, but I will do that because that faculty need what? They need the gallery, amphitheater. So we'll see one of them that we are going to hold responsible now. On behalf of the university, I didn't take the department anymore now because I need an amphitheater. I have represented this award of appreciation to Dr. Olabode. Congratulations. Anybody that have seen the faculty of law in Aba, I want to see that once we put the amphitheater on that top, very close to Leisure Theatre 2, I do the landscaping, you will think I never class. That will happen. And even the town to the day and all the alumni in that faculty, they are going to do it together. But for the taxation, they are just the another level. They need their building. They will do it. The people make the assurance. We are all witness to it. So I will be asking now. And I call it 2 a.m. 2 a.m.
Doctor. Thank you, sir. Before Mr. President tell us that, you will have to wait to who much is given, much is equally expected. You have been giving now since. I think you will have to rake in something that, now, the Department of Accounting, Faculty of Administration, and Management Sciences is equally very much ready to appreciate you, making sure that today is a reality. Not reality alone, but you can see the turnout, very impressive. Thank you very much. I invite the Faculty of Administration and Management Sciences, Professor Muteshola, to come and do the presentation of appreciation, the token to the Vice Chancellor of this great university. And we appreciate the Faculty of Administration and Management Sciences, Professor Muteshola.
Oh, it doesn't have any tax implication.
We confirm from the deceased.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, with due respect, it doesn't have any tax implication. I have the singular honor to present this award of recognition to you, sir, Professor Ayobi Bungi Agbola, recognition and appreciation of your visionary guidance, exceptional leadership and services as chairman at this lady edition of the departmental public lecture. Congratulations.
And we appreciate the Faculty of Administration and Management Sciences for appreciating this university through the Vice Chancellor of Olabisi Onabanjo University. And we appreciate them once again. Thank you very much. Of course, as we are coming to the end of the first part of today's meeting with the members of the university community. Thank you. On this note, I invite the head department of accounting, Dr. Ochoyemi, to please step forward and give the words of appreciation. Most of thanks on behalf of the department and the faculty, please. Dr. Ochoyemi, vote of thanks, please.
The Vice Chancellor, it is clear that by this December, it's not going to the disbursement of funds now. It's going to the rise. Because they've given the Vice Chancellor the clue that they should just give us the. So what we just need to do is just tell the Vice Chancellor to make the bank more bigger. And that's all. Without wasting much time, I want to appreciate the university management for giving us this opportunity as in the department. And I want to also announce here that this program now becomes an annual event. So this becomes the main edition. So it's going to be an annual thing now. And so we have an annual public lecture in the department. Once it's going to come, we are also going to be having an alumni series lecture. A lot of things we want to give to you. aside from computing results, asking for deadline, we also want to stimulate the university community and engage more on these things. I want to thank our guest lecturers, the discussants, for finding time out of their time schedule to come and have this done. We want to thank you all, staff and management, students. We appreciate you. We wish the invited guests journey back to their various destinations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That is the end of the first part of the meeting of the university management with the distinguished members of the university community. Of course, after the timetable is set, we will invite the university management under the able leadership of the Vice Chancellor.